Oh. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Rock the Crown, episode 4. Today, we're going to be talking about living the international lifestyle. This is part 2. If you joined us last week, you got to hear a little bit on the travel. And so, we're going to kind of get into the show today, getting a better understanding on living the international lifestyle. We're not about living here in the United States, but just living abroad. So, we're going to be exploring different destinations outside of our home country. It's like once you get that first stamp on your passport, it's like you got to be ready to go after that. I
Right,
remember, I remember, for me, with the traveling, I always said I wanted to wait until I went on Hajj before I went anywhere. So
right.
I went on Hajj back in 2010, and so I got my first stamp. You think after that first stamp, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm ready to travel the world. Is what I was telling myself. I looked up and years had went by.
Girl.
Yes, years had went by. And so I was like, I need to travel before my passport expires. And so for some people, it may be traveling with your family, traveling, having a girls' trip, just different things. So for me, I was able to do a little traveling. I've been out of the country a couple of times outside of Hajj, and both of them were Mexico. So the first time was my honeymoon. Actually, I went to Mexico, but we were on a resort, so I didn't really get to see like the city, so much. So my next time, um, yeah. So then my next time I went with the girlfriends, you know. But before we get into all that, we definitely just want to welcome you to Rock the Crown. Of course, you guys know who I am. I'm your host, Nefertari. And of course, I have my beautiful queen, Naima, is with us this
Hello,
evening.
everybody.
Yay.
Let's get into the international lifestyle because
Yes. And as you know, this one right here, this queen, she loves to travel.
love to
She's
travel.
really
Love
gonna
it.
get into it.
Right. And thinking of the international lifestyle, it's you were talking about passport. And so like right now, before we go into the winter months, it's a great time to actually think about getting your passport if you haven't gotten it yet. Because you never know what's going to happen at any point. And if you don't have your passport, you're going to be stuck out. So encouraging everybody to make sure that you go and get your passport. And as of recent, they have actually, they have an online version now to get your passport. So that's
Oh, I
exciting,
might have
right?
to use that for my son, my little one. I've been trying to get my big kids to get
Exactly.
theirs too, but yeah, I've been needing to do that.
Yeah, so no more standing in super long lines at the post office. And I believe that the process is still kind of the same. You get an appointment and everything, but of course you can do everything online. So that's going to take out a lot of time for people. But yeah, let's get into this whole living the international lifestyle. So first, we want to talk about different types of international lifestyles. And of course, we know that, traveling in general is one, but making sure that for some, it may be that for the international lifestyle that you have an annual family or girlfriend's trip or children or whatever, just having an side of the United States. Hey girl, hey. That we want to start off talking about different types of international lifestyles. And again, an annual family trip is something that we is a great idea. I know Dai and I do that. We do an annual trip. Then, of course, me and all the queens, both Nefertari, Daya, and Nafisa, we try to do at least one, if not two, one stateside staycation or vacation, and then one international. So we have done that for at least 2 years in a row. So hopefully we can keep that going up.
Yeah. And that's what I was speaking on earlier when I say the girlfriend's trip, going to Mexico, being able to go to Tulum. That was really awesome because I got a chance to see the second time around going to Mexico, the actual city a little bit more, versus being on a resort. And so
Yeah.
that was fun. I ain't been nowhere out the country since then.
Okay. Well, you need to get some passport stamping.
It's time to go. I know.
Okay. So Daia, we are on some travel to different locations. That's you.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess sorry I missed it, you guys, but I guess you're talking now about the different types of international travelers, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
like I said earlier, well, like you guys mentioned, once you get your first passport stamp, you become an international traveler. Once you
Mhm.
get off the plane to your first international destination, you're an international traveler. So, sometimes, like we mentioned, Naima, you mentioned the ones who maybe it's just an annual trip, family trip, girlfriend's trip. The different type of international traveler is one who travels to different locations for maybe 6 months at a time, maybe 3 months at a time. So, this is when you are going for an extended stay. You're not quite, like moved in, but you are there for an extended period of time. Like myself, I don't know if all of
Hey,
you
tell
know,
us
but
about that, girl. Tell us about it.
so I made a promise to myself many, many years ago that once my youngest graduated from high school, I would take some time off to travel the world. And, praise God, alhamdulillah, I have been in a position to be able to do so. So my son graduated this past May. Both of my sons graduated this past May. And in August, I, hopped on a plane and took off. And I'm planning to be out for at least 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really excited about that. So I've always wanted to travel. I'm just a traveler by heart, just a traveler by nature. And so this, I had the opportunity to do it. So I said, well, why not? Because you never know what position you'll be in a year from now. So definitely want to take advantage of, any opportunity that you have if it's something that you really want to do. When the opportunity presents itself, don't put it off because you never know what your health conditions may be in a year from now. You never know what your financial standings may be, in a year. So when you have the opportunity, please take it. So yeah, that would be the second type is the ones who actually go for extended stays. And it can be a solo traveler or it can be a lot of times it's couples. I see a lot of the YouTubers, and they're couples that are just out there just backpacking it, just traveling the world. Of course, I'm not on a
Mhm.
backpack.
Okay. I wouldn't be backpacking either.
Bags. But for extended stay, you want to bring the comforts of home. So
Mhm.
yes, I do have more than one bag.
So, Daya, tell us a little bit more about what some of your experience has been since you left in August, because now it's October. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, so I've been out for 2 months. So my first stop was my second trip to Dubai. So I went to Dubai. Fortunately, I was able to stay with a beautiful sister there. She's actually in Abu Dhabi. So I didn't want to go there and just be 100% tourist. I wanted to be able to go and really sit and really experience, living there in the country, living like a local.
Right.
And so I didn't stay on a resort, didn't even stay in an Airbnb. I stayed with the sister, which gave me a great opportunity to see how she lives, what's her day to day. And she's actually a teacher, so she's at work every day. And so it just gave me a great, opportunity to be on the ground with the people, going to do my prayer. I would take my trips to the beach because I love the beach. So I love being close enough to be able to do that during the week. And I am still working. So I'm not just out, just traveling about, alhamdulillah, I am still working. So a few days a week I'm working. And then, few, mornings I'm working and I'm just taking, just really taking it all in. It's really been really great. I really have enjoyed my time out, enjoying being outside of the normal, stressors of your day-to-day life, especially, in the States, well, it's been a really, really good experience. I'm excited.
Now, what places have you been to? Do you mind telling us, sharing?
Sure. So I've been to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and I also this time I went to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah. That's three of the, I think it's, I'm sorry, it's either seven or nine Emirates. I'm supposed to be learning actually as I go. So forgive me if it's a seven. I think it's seven of the Emirates. And then I'm now in Egypt. And Egypt has, so I've like flown through Egypt a few times. You know how I've had a layover in Cairo. And each time I went to Cairo, it just was like a real hustle bustle, kind of rah rah. You know, I'm a man, so I get to skip you in the line. You know, I got that kind of. It was that kind of, maybe just the airport. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's the city of Cairo, but that was my experience in the airport. I just really didn't like it. So I searched. I said, let me see. I really do want to go to Egypt. I really do want to, experience living there.
Mhm.
So let me see which the cities, might be a little more, friendly.
Right.
So I did come across one city that's off the coast of Egypt. It's Hurghada. And it's a lovely, lovely touristy, nice vacation area, plus living. So you have a nice mixture of tourists, plus a nice mix of just everyday people that live here. You're right off the Red Sea. So what I love about it is every time you step outside, wherever you are, you always have a nice sea breeze. Like it's
Ooh.
hot, and you always have this nice breeze coming from the sea. So that's absolutely amazing. And it's inexpensive. So that was one of the things when I was going, starting my traveling journey, is I wanted to see where could I live inexpensively, like under $500. And so Hurghada definitely checked, one of those boxes.
So you're able to save money on your trip.
Yes,
That's good.
that's the plan. Yeah, that was the plan.
Mhm.
So I set out with a budget. I didn't just go out, hey, let's go spend money. I set out
Mhm.
on a budget. I made sure that my bills at home were taken care of, and I have a set budget. So I'm watching it and I'm seeing, I spent a little more than I should have. So guess what? I might not be able to go to the 6 countries that I planned.
Mhm.
Um, but so I got to figure out which one. I got to cross one of them. I might have to
Right.
cross.
Cross one off and make some more money.
Yeah, that's right. Or make more money. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Look, and as you can see, Dia is a pretty young person, so you don't have to wait till you get older, too much
That's
older
right.
to do that. She did wait until her youngest graduated from high school, but that's great. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just love it. I love to travel too, but you can't tell with my passport, but I'm going. I'm gonna be going soon. Look,
That's
I've been trying
right.
to stay close to my mama.
Yes.
Yeah, I
make it
was saying, but you're always on the plane going somewhere, Neff.
Yeah.
So you do love to travel.
Yes. Somebody that.
Yeah.
And then some other different international travel lifestyles are some, if you've never traveled out of the country, you don't really know sometimes what it means to feel like a place is home, right?
Mhm.
So, because all you know is the United States, but even inside of the United States, you could go to Colorado or California, Connecticut, or whatever. And when you go to that place, you're like, man, this seems very, very familiar, right?
Mhm.
And I love the feeling that I get when I get here. I love that feeling whenever I go to any place that has a beach. Okay. But internationally, I got that feeling when I went to Morocco. I was like, this is my place. I love it so much. And of course, from that love of going to Morocco the first time. So the first time I went to Morocco, it was a small group trip. It was 3 of us. I was actually with 2 senior women at the
Mhm.
time. And so we stayed in Morocco for 18 days. And
Hmm.
it was luxurious. Not only did we hang out in 7 different cities in Morocco, we also went to Spain. And of course, we went to Alhambra, hung out in Spain for about 3 or 4 days. Then we just started Then we were like, you want to go to the Rock of Gibraltar today? Listen, so we were thinking about like all these different things, different places that you could go. Because again, when you travel international, it's so easy to go to another place that's right there, right? As opposed to coming all the way back and then trying to make that trip later. So we were trying to capitalize on that, but we were not able to do that because we were traveling so much. We were basically getting tired toward the end of the trip. But that first trip that I took for 18, and that was really my first international trip that I had taken since I had made Hajj in 2007. And so when I did that, I was like, man, I need to come here every year. And so, alhamdulillah, I had been able to take women every year to Morocco. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, due to COVID, haven't been able to do that. But 2023, honey, I'm getting my group of ladies together. Anyone interested in going to Morocco for 2023, definitely reach out by way of our Instagram, our Facebook, or our email. But yeah, 2023. So Morocco is basically my place. It is, to me, so beautiful. The one thing that I love, although I found a beautiful Airbnb in Morocco that is right next door to the masjid. So we have lived or been, I'm saying live. When we go, we stay there, and literally I'm like, this is my house. Like, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but this is my house. Whenever I come to Morocco, we stay here, and I've taken different groups and they've enjoyed it likewise. We've had Eid, we've gone with groups, and we had Eid there right next to the masjid. We've gone and had experience of going to Fez. We've stayed overnight in Fez, which I won't do ever again. I love Fez, but I don't want to stay there overnight. We've gone to, oh my gosh, Algeciras. We've gone to, so we split the trip. Either we go to Spain or we go to the Sahara Desert. And so when we go, we let the group basically decide. And if we go to Spain, then of course we'll stay in Spain for 3 to 4 days. And we will always go to Alhambra because that is something that every Muslim must go to Alhambra to visit. Beautiful, beautiful historical place, and so rich and full of history that we as Muslims really are missing out on. You'll go and you'll see literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people from Asia there visiting. But literally all the times that I've gone, that's what, for 4 or 5 years, I maybe have seen 20 Muslims there the whole time that I've been there. And I'll say Muslims meaning like women that cover like I do. And then, so it might be some people there. I just don't know that they're Muslim in terms of like what they look like. And of course, maybe some men, but I haven't really seen a lot like that. But anyway, nonetheless, and then also some of the experiences, of course, is when you go to Fez, the leather shop. This is the oldest leather shop in the world. The world. It is not industrial. It has the original. So like, I don't know if people have ever seen, if you search Morocco and you put leather, you'll see these color vats. It's like big holes, but basically it's vats that's full of color. And what they do is they put the cow hide or camel hide or whatever inside of those vats to color the leather. It's so authentic. And of course, one of the great things that we enjoyed was getting your custom made jacket. So like, get your jacket, get measured and all that stuff. No matter where you're at, if you are under 6 hours in travel time from that location, they will drive and bring you your jacket after the 2-hour period of when they've created it. When I tell you, that's some custom, honey. That's some custom craftsmanship. So
did you get your jacket?
I did. I got 2 jackets, and then of course I purchased one for my mother, and then someone else got him a pair of leather bell-bottom pants. So it's just like, oh my God, all this exciting stuff. But yeah.
That's another one of my interests. Of course, like Naima said, she's been going to Morocco for years, and some years I'm like, oh, I'm going to go this year. I'm going to go this year. Oh, I'm going to go this year. To where Jamila Boucher was like, she not coming. I'm like, I was coming for real. And then COVID happened.
Right. Inshallah.
So inshallah, I definitely look forward to going next year. I'm kind of excited too about some of the things you just described with just the leather and, just the manufacturing side of things. I want to go kind of check out some things for business as well as a fashion designer.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be
And
able
the
to
food,
everything.
so good, so
Definitely
natural.
the food too.
Yeah. And it's not like one thing really quick about the food. Although it's very, very fresh, like literally after 7 days, you're like, I love it, but I just need a little bit of variety. So that's something else to think about. Like when you're going to these different countries, like they don't have like a vast variety of food like we have here in America, because in America we have everybody else's food, right? And
That's
so in their
true.
country they just have their food. Generally they'll try to accommodate Americans by having like French fries and sometimes burgers. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely not the same. And then of course you'll see some of the traditional fast food restaurants that we have here in those countries. But I'm not necessarily a fast food eater, but if I have to, you know, then I'll eat something there. But yeah, just thinking about that when you're doing that as well.
Yep. So the next lifestyle traveler, international traveler lifestyle would be, of course, those who decide to travel abroad and actually relocate for extended periods of time. We know a few sisters in the community who have traveled to Dubai is one. Egypt is another. You know, they go there. What are some other places that you know that some of the sisters in the community have traveled to?
Ghana, Senegal, you know, especially for
Sounds
studying
familiar.
in Senegal. We've had a lot of people in the community go there, study Quran really, and actually take their children. So it's been, I know of at least 5 or 6 different families who've taken husband, wife, and all of their children actually have gone to Senegal to study Islam and to really work for the children to become Hafiz of Quran. So that's something also to think about if you wanted to do that as well. But yeah, definitely some African countries people have gone there.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in that. I would love to do that. Just to be gone for the year, temporary, of course, just to get a feel. But what that reminds me of, Daia, if you remember when you kind of talked about when we did another travel for international, is being able to go and stay for a few weeks just so you can kind of feel it out. Like, you know, you don't want to just go, say you want to go somewhere for a year, like I just said, you'll just pick up and go. You got to go earlier, put a little time in, kind of get adjusted and learn some of the things, and then come back and then, you know, prepare yourself, you know, as you go back. So
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, because sometimes what you see on Instagram and what you see on TV, you know, once you actually get there, you know, sometimes you just, you know, it just may not sit well with you. You might find some things that you don't like, or so yes, always good, you know, do a little trial period, you know, go to the place, you know, visit there. I know somebody said you don't know a place until you smell the place, like until you walked off, you know, the plane, got a good whiff in, you know, of the smell, and that kind of tells you know, so don't always go, you know, pictures, pictures are not always, you know, what they seem. So
And
we find that even in the United States.
Yeah, you find that, yeah. But even having the mindset, like when you go to a country, sometimes if you haven't studied what could happen in those countries, you're going with the mindset of the conveniences of America. And people forget that in other countries, sometimes there's not running water 100% of the time. There's not air conditioning 100% of the time. There's not escalators. There's not elevators. There's not, you have to walk. Right. There's not internet 24/7. You know what I'm saying? So those small things that we just mentioned are things that are super, super big here in America that we totally take for granted while we're here. But when you go over there, you're like, what do you mean I can't take a bath? Yeah, you can't take a bath. You can't shower until Fajr of the next day, right? And so people having to like get a bucket, and everybody having their own bucket of water that lasts them to use the bathroom, take a shower, and of course they drink bottled water in different.
Yeah,
that was a struggle.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, but I mean,
it reminds me when I was on Hajj though. I was like, I'll just hold it. I'm not going right now.
Right.
That's when we first got to. Let me see, where was that when you first come in?
It's different places.
Jeddah.
We went. I
Jeddah,
got
yes,
it.
thank you,
We got
Jeddah.
in
Yeah,
it.
we were in
Abu
Jeddah. I
Dhabi.
said, "Oh my goodness, what is going on?"
With the
Right.
hole in the floor.
Yeah, I just, but that's okay. I'll wait.
Right. And then you were like, oh, it's whole floor everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that part.
Now when you go, they're so much more modern now. So they have like every other stall might be just a regular American
Yeah,
toilet.
because you would
Yeah.
find those here and there. Mhm.
I guess
But
they've listened to
still-
our complaints.
But the toilet paper also, like we're used to flushing toilet paper. Sometimes in other countries, they don't want you to flush the toilet paper because again, their infrastructure isn't set up to do that. And so even when we like have even for countries that do have toilet paper, they still don't want you to use flushable wipes, right? Because again, how it breaks down is different in their country than it would be here. So just kind of thinking about all of those conveniences and inconveniences and whether or not you actually would be able to handle that if you did have an extended stay or even just you going for a week or so. With that being said, we're going to move into the final different type of lifestyle, and that is international investing. And so,
well, before you get to that, Naima, I was just thinking about the, people on their bucket list. So we didn't really hit that one, places that you would like to go. So I know Daya kind of talked about some of the places she's been from August to now. And then you've kind of talked about Morocco. And of course, I've just mentioned Mexico. I feel like everybody goes to Mexico at some point or another. So I definitely got a broad in my spectrum. But there are different places that I would love to go that I haven't been. And so my places are like France, Dubai, Senegal and Ghana. I definitely want to go to Africa. I'm like, when my dad was here, I always felt like I would travel to Africa with him. And so I got to get another partner now. And some of that I think is just wanting to reach back, for your roots and see different things. And I'm like, I just feel like I need to get to Africa. And I know Africa is so big. It's like, okay, where are you going to start first? But I really would love to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone definitely should. After you make your pilgrimage to Hajj, you should make your pilgrimage to Africa.
Yeah.
It's good to do your ancestry, to
we've
find
done
where your roots are, and then maybe consider, going to that place. That's
why Senegal is on my list, because that's my mom's side of the family.
Oh, okay.
And my dad is actually Spain.
Oh, okay.
The Moors,
Oh, okay. And so Allegra is saying that she would love to visit London, Germany, and Africa. And again, my heart is in Africa. I'm like, those other places, they get everybody's attention all the time. We really need to focus on like going to Africa, going to Kenya, going to Nigeria, going to Tanzania, going to, Ghana, Gambia, all of these different places, which really have some beautiful sites, right? But because we are so programmed again here in America, like we don't even think of those things, those places sometimes, because we're like, oh, it's suffering there and all of these different things. But remembering that the one thing that you can buy that will always make you richer is to travel. And so you can spend money on traveling and you will be richer after it, in terms of how you perceive life, your experiences, and all of this stuff. It's just so much perspective and gratitude that you can get when you travel. So just kind of like thinking about that. But again, going back to the investing, we're going to try to wrap this up so that we're not going too long. But the investment, I'm actually going to hand it kind of over back to Daya also, because she's going to talk about some investment opportunities, because y'all be talking about me traveling and doing all this stuff. No, Daya, honey, she's traveling, she's investing in all these different things as well. So Daya, tell us about some different investments and how people can look into investments internationally.
Sure. Yeah. So just like, a lot of people, after they buy their first home, they start after a few years looking into getting a vacation home, right? They look into getting a second home. And so like with you, Naima, how your heart has just been drawn to Morocco, like you basically have adopted Morocco as your country. Right. So that's a good idea for you to consider purchasing a piece of property, in Morocco. So that each time you go, you you have your home there, and then when you're not there, you can rent it out. This way you're making money. That's your investment. You have a home, your second home, and then you're also making money for the time that you're away. So there again, you want to go to the place, and then once you get there, it's fairly simple. You just call up a realtor. They're very happy to take you around, happy to show you the different areas. This is this area. This is this area. You don't want to go here. You might want to go there. These are the prices. So you can get a really good idea of, how much things cost. What I found, and that was part of my objective when I also set out to travel, was not just to go just for leisure. I'm also here for business. So I'm looking for, investment opportunities, looking for business opportunities, definitely real estate, because my roots are in real estate. My father is a builder. Mm-hmm. And so definitely I was raised, up in, real estate, and that's what I've seen. So great opportunities here in Egypt, that I would love for everyone to consider, because in Egypt, there is the mortgages here are interest free. You never even really hear the term mortgage, because basically a mortgage, it usually consists of interest. But here it's like, payment. You put a certain deposit down, and then they give you payment terms. So you pay on it for like 6 years, 8 years. But that's a, really great opportunity, and very inexpensive housing here. Very inexpensive. You can get a nice condo, maybe like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom condo under $40,000. And these may have, sea view. So you may have like ocean view, or it may just have private beach access. But I found a lot of properties here, and I am, going to invest here in Egypt, inshallah.
Yes.
So when I was set out, and I was making my list, and Egypt was on my list, and I kept I want to get to Egypt. Now, when I go, I'm gonna spend more than 30 days there. I just felt something saying, hey, this might be a nice little, area for you to really look at. So I actually wasn't planning to go to Egypt until later on, but I moved it up. And so really based on prices too, because as I go to different places, I look to see, okay, well, how much, where can I go inexpensively as I'm here at this point A, which, where can I go that's going to be cheaper? And so Egypt, was my next destination. So, yeah, so that's, what you can do, invest, in other countries, especially you want to also make sure that the country has some stability, because you a lot of times will have to purchase the property maybe in their currency. And so you want to make sure that that currency has some type of stability, that you're not, and usually it, our dollar, the dollar is for the most part stable.
Yeah.
So it's so you want to look at, investing, that's the other international traveler, is that they go to these different places and they look for opportunities, where they can invest and have a home, as well as having, rental income, having that passive income that we all talk about, wanting. I want passive income. So real estate is a wonderful vehicle for that. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see when after you get your place and get everything, get to see your before and after,
Right.
And then that'll give me Egypt is another place I would love to go. Of course, even with my name, Nefertiti.
Yes.
And so, I definitely would love to go there. So
yes. And did you know about you? So I think there's a Nefertari and there's a Nefertiti, right?
Yes, two different.
So I was
just telling somebody the other week.
One of them was the wife of the pharaoh who denounced polygods. He, actually started to lean the people towards, the belief in one God, towards Tawheed. And they actually, I don't know if he was exiled or if he left, but they, basically, like, hey, we're not trying to hear that,
Mm.
So his wife was it was either Nefertiti or Nefertari. And I was
Nefertiti.
proud. I said, wow, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
We have a Muslim among the pharaohs, which was
Mhm.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we can just really, really quickly, the last point we want to make before we end the show today is like when you're thinking about traveling or talking about doing international travel, some things to really think about and factors that will determine when and where you will travel will be, of course, number one, money, as Daya has often spoke about. Um, then thinking about like
Family
career,
status.
yeah,
Mhm.
family status, like well, I yeah, I don't know what that would mean for me, but
Well, I'm saying some people they really have to think about you really have to think about your family status, like just like you have to think
Mhm.
about your career and the type of work, but your family status, where you hold yourself, how many children you have,
Right.
sometimes
What
like
and
when
what
the
are your
children are
children's
older, you're a little more
ages?
free. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
you still have to
It's
think
just
about all of that.
very,
Naima forgets about that. She act like she ain't never had no children just because they're a little older. Like,
Just because my children are so much grown, they're
yes.
older.
Like,
It's I'm like, I'm not thinking about like, I don't need to find a babysitter, I don't need to ask permission. I'm just like, oh, I want to travel. Okay, Diane, where are we going next week? Oh, yeah, you want to go to a staycation this weekend? She's like, girl, I gotta find somebody to get my mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm going by myself. But,
dynamics.
yeah,
Dynamics are a little bit different.
right.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that's
And to
Okay.
those people, I say your time will come. Your
Yes.
time
Yes,
will
it will.
Oh, but let me tell you, even when I first had my child at the age of 43, I said, this is going to be a little bit different this round because I see
Right,
myself like traveling with him. Like, it's not like, oh, let me wait till he's 18. Like, no, you're
right.
going with me. He
Mhm.
might not be under the traditional education and whatever. We're going to get all of that done. That's still my vision. That's still what I see. So I'm like, we'll be going together. So I do need to get his passport.
Right, that
First
part,
step.
ASAP, yeah.
Mhm.
And
But
speaking about career, one thing also, of course, Daya, you said that you're still working. Something that people should and maybe should look into is even though you're working, really ask your job, can I go remote? Because you don't know until you ask. And so
Mhm.
I think sometimes people are like, oh, I have to quit my job to live internationally or to travel internationally. And you can also go part time. So again, asking that employer, can you work remotely? Because of course, thank God for COVID for that, right? And then
Mhm.
also maybe even reducing the amount of time that you're working. Hey, can I go
Mhm.
part time? So again, so that when you are out of the country, you can still be earning a living. Because again, we also know that people don't have just like
Mhm.
$20,000 saved up to travel for a year or $30,000 to travel for a year. And so you want to make sure that the amount of money that you do have saved, you can still be having additional income to support not only your travels as you're traveling internationally, but also to make sure that whatever you've left behind, you can still take care of that as well. And that
Mhm.
means paying in advance or whatever. And then of course,
If I can add one more thing on
mhm,
money, I would say, like, if you know that you want to do this, you want to travel, go ahead and figure out what it costs. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times we think, oh, it's this huge astronomical figure. It costs
right,
$100,000, and then really it's like it only costs $2,000 for me to go
Mhm.
there and live for a month or for a year. So I mean,
Right.
I would say to figure that out, figure out what that
mhm,
number is, because that
yeah,
makes it more manageable. You're like, oh, well, I can do that. So
Mhm.
definitely,
right.
get a budget together for it.
Right. And the next thing is your health and your age. So this is important because again, we don't have the same amenities and here in America, or other countries don't have the same amenities that we have here in America. And so in America, yeah, you can walk around with a wheelchair. You can walk around with a scooter. You can use a rolling walker. But you can't use those items in other countries. Not all countries, but in other countries that don't have those accommodations. And so, even when I go to Morocco, people they have to be able to walk a minimum of 4 miles. Specifically because we have had to walk. One day, we literally walked 22 miles, and
Wow.
although nobody really realized that they can walk 22 miles until we actually have to do it, right? And so they would always ask me, Naima, how many miles did we walk today? I was like, yeah, we walked 12 miles. We walked. They was like, I walked 12 miles. Oh Lord! It's like it's so easy to do it when you don't have a car and when that is your only means. And of course, if some people can't walk longer than a mile, it makes it very difficult when you travel out internationally because again, you can get out of breath. You know, it raises the risk of you having a heart attack outside of the country. And then, of course, you also know that hospitals and facilities in other countries are not the same. So being able to get the care that you need may not be the same internationally. So just making sure, again, your physical age and your health are all in, I would say, good to better condition if you're traveling internationally. And sometimes people are like, oh, I can go because I have a walker. Just make sure that you know that you can go. And again, cobblestone streets in countries, that's not good for people who maybe have feet ailments, or if you are having a walker, you can't necessarily walk on a cobblestone street if you even if you have a cane. So just thinking about all of those small dynamics that people really don't think about when they're traveling internationally, and making sure that you just start moving now. If you're like, okay, I'm going to travel internationally in a year, go ahead and start walking. And really taking yourself almost to like, I'm going to walk. If I'm going to travel in 12 months, I need to walk. Month 1, I need to walk 1 mile. Month 2, 2 miles, 3, like that, so that you can be able to, again, extend yourself all the way. Hey, I can walk 12 miles, and now it's time for me to go out of the country. I know that I'll be able to do those things, and I won't be tired, and my health won't be at risk. So that's something else to think about.
Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am. So the other two factors to consider are your home country. So this one is just like we talked about in the last show, is that everyone is not free to travel the way that we are. Like with the American passport, you're able to go anywhere. You can get a 30-day visa for most part. You can stay for at least 30 days. Some places 60, some places 90 days. But when you live in other countries, there's a totally different process. You're not just able to look at flights and book flights, and just go to places. You have to actually apply for visas, and a lot of places, just especially in our African countries, they're not able to travel as much as we are able to. But, there are places that they can travel to. So that is one thing. If we have any of our African brothers or sisters that are watching, even though you're limited to where you can travel, find out, what places you are able to travel to, because there are several places where it's, visa free for different African countries to be able to travel to. And then the other thing is timing.
That's a great point about visas. Like, people are like, oh, I want to travel to so and so and so and so and so and so. Well, do you need a visa? And if you haven't applied, what you don't want is to spend money getting your ticket, all of that stuff. And as soon as you get off the plane, they're asking for your visa, and you're like, what visa? And then you have to fly back home to America, and you just spend all that money for no reason. Wah.
Super sad. Bags packed and everything. They're like, what you going back home? They wouldn't let me get on the plane. That's happened to me, actually. Actually, they wouldn't let me get on.
Right.
Oh, okay. Because my visa had expired to one place. So I was so sad. Yeah. So, the other thing we were going to mention is just timing, and like Naima mentioned, with your career, with your family, figuring out when is the best time. Like for me, it was after my youngest graduated. For someone else, it might be once their, youngest child turns 5, and then they'll take the whole family. So just considering, when is a good time. And then also I'll say, knowing the destination that you're going to, you also want to make sure that you follow up with what's going on in that country. Because, by the grace of Allah, I was actually planning to go to Burkina Faso when I was in Africa here recently. And I, decided not to. And then I heard on the news about the coup, that they had. So I was like, well, good. It's a good thing I didn't go there, even though it wasn't like unrest, but that I would have been a little shaken up, by, experiencing, hearing about that on the news. So
Mhm.
definitely want to pay attention to what's going on in those countries where you're
Right.
traveling.
Definitely
A
important.
couple of years, and not to make any country sound bad, but I know a couple of years ago, it was some unrest in Kenya. And
Mhm.
people were going there. They were getting kidnapped. I'm not trying to laugh, but I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Wow.
if you don't do your research, you are going to find yourself in a bad
Wow.
situation. So again, everything is not like America. Make sure you do your research when you travel out of the country. And when we had gone to Italy, when we were getting off of the train, we're thinking, oh, we can get off a train and get on a bus. And, we're thinking everything is, honey, we couldn't read any Italian. And the internet wasn't working because, again, our translator little phones, that wasn't working. And so we had to wing it, right, to get through all of these different
Oh
places.
my
And
goodness.
we ended up having to literally walk 2.5 miles to our hotel because they also were like, oh, these American ladies, they're rich. We're going to charge them $300 to take them to their hotel. And I was like, well, no, that's okay. We can walk because we knew that we physically could walk. And once we, were able to go down, also know where you're going. Because when we went to, we stayed off the Amalfi Coast, which is an hour and a half from any fun, right? So it's like, yeah, the coast is beautiful. You can see the volcano, but there is nothing over there. So like we had to literally plan every day where, okay, we need to have at least 30 minutes to an hour travel time to get to another city in order for us to have some engagements and have a good time, which of course takes up your day. So it's just all of those little things. Timing.
Do your research.
Right. Research. I'm doing that.
Timing is everything.
Everything.
The last thing I want to mention is safety. So especially if you're planning to travel solo, anytime I go somewhere, my mother gets my itinerary. She gets my full itinerary. Anytime, like if I'm taking any kind of excursions or something like that, I send her my confirmation so she knows I'm going with this, tour company or what have you. If I meet people along the way, I'm like, hey, this is so-and-so's contact information, if I'm going and I'm going to go walking, I try not to go out at night. But if I'm going to go and I'm going to go walking, then my children, they have my location from the iPhones.
Right.
So you're able to see, where I am. So definitely, as a solo traveler or even as a, group, make sure that you are taking your safety precautions, because, when you go to different countries, and they see, you're a tourist because you always have your little crossbody, right? Body bag. That's how they know. Okay, she's a tourist.
Right.
So, a target.
You got to try to look the part. Don't wear a cross bag.
Yeah. Try not to do that. You can, but just maybe put it under your jacket so you're not so obvious, and good thing now we don't have the big, huge maps. So that was always a key. Now we have the phones and we're looking like this, but yeah, so definitely be safe. And make sure you stay in contact with your family. Make sure somebody knows, where you are. If you're straying, if you're going to go out venturing, just make sure that you're being safe.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Daya. Those are really very important points. And Daya's, traveling by herself, so it's even more important when you are by yourself. But when you are with a group of people, like usually when we travel, it's like, when you go out, somebody go with that, team up, have a partner, when you're out. But I'm so glad that you shared that because, I even being in the house by myself, sometimes I'm like, what was that noise? So you get used to just being alone. Like I'm used to having people around me all the time. Like it's so important to, I do that even when I'm traveling in the States. It's like, hey, here's my itinerary. So just every step of the way, just communicating with somebody in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And one last tip while people are traveling, I have downloaded. Can you all see that? This is
Not really. I see colors. Oh,
I
is
see
it
a
like
mic.
I see a microphone and
yeah.
Hmm.
So this is Microsoft's
translator?
translator. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, what it does is like you can speak into it like other people. So you would tell them, you tell what language you're looking for, and as they
Mhm.
speak to you, it translates it for you, right? Then also you have this icon, which is a picture or a camera. So
Mhm.
if you had signs, it'll take the picture of the sign and then translate the sign for you as well. It'll
Oh,
do that with the menu. It'll do that with any words that you have in another country. It'll translate everything for you. And it'll also, this person thing right here, it lets you know that you're in a conversation mode with someone. So it'll make sure that as
for
you are talking to the person, it'll listen for the person and then it'll tell you what to say back. So it'll modulate it in a way so that you can understand. But this is Microsoft. This is the best translator. I know sometimes people download Google Translate, but what people don't realize is that Google Translate is kind of still a loose translation, and sometimes things can get lost. It's not a perfect translation with Google Translate. The Microsoft Translator is a great tool to use when you're going out of the country as well.
So as long as you have a signal and you have the internet.
No. This is so if you know that you're going out of the country,
Mhm.
it will this can be offline. You don't have to have.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
What you would do is prior to going, you download the language that you're going to need in that country while you do have internet. So that way, again, you can use that at any time as long as you have downloaded the language prior to going there. So it is an offline tool.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used that a few times. It's very, very useful. The
Yeah.
other thing on language is what I found as I travel is that English is a universal language. And so, like as you're traveling through the airports, they may have their language, and then they always have English because so many other countries, other people in different countries, they also speak English.
Right.
So English is definitely a benefit to have. As you travel abroad, a lot of people do speak the English.
All right. Excellent, ladies. Well, this was a trip around the world. Okay, so as we are all getting ready to prepare for 2023, as we said, do your research and get your international calendar set up ahead of time. So going into December, go ahead and start traveling your calendar for 2023 for the year. That's going to save you on time, money, and making sure that you get to the locations that you want to get to, whether it's 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 places, wherever you want to go. Okay. And that also includes stateside. So want to encourage everybody to join us next week and follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and we're getting up there. We need more YouTube subscribers. And then, of course, also follow us on Instagram and be ready for next week because we got something juicy for you coming. Nep, did you want to say what's coming on next week?
Yes. So next week, we're going to be doing our book review, and the book that we want you guys to make sure you read. If you haven't read it, start reading it. The Big Leap. So this is a really, really good one, for all those business-minded people, entrepreneurs, just wanting to change your whole mindset, putting together a new plan. Look forward to that next week. We're really excited about that, The Big Leap. So this is going to be actually our first book for the season that we're going to be getting into. You guys know we have a book club. So we have about 4 or 5 books for the season that we're going to be telling you about. So next week, The Big Leap. Look forward to that.
Yes, and that is on Audible if you don't have the book, but check it out. So inshallah, we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for showing up for us again, Crown Nation. We love you. Peace.